Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful emperor of Rome. He spent his nights writing notes to himself, not planning conquests. These were private notes. They became a personal journal. It's called the Meditations, and it's one of history's great guides to inner strength. So we're going to look at 30 of his most powerful quotes. Each one is a doorway, a different way to see your life, but we'll move beyond a list. We'll group his words into the Stoic principles behind them, the principles that give them lasting power. And by the end, you'll have a framework, a practical one, for turning daily stress into resilience, for turning confusion into clarity. So how is it that the private thoughts of a man who ruled an empire 2,000 years ago, how do they feel so urgent for your life today? What if changing your world really does start there, with changing your mind? The philosophy of Marcus Aurelius comes down to one idea. It's not the events that shape our reality. It's the filter of our own judgments. The Stoics held that nothing in the world is inherently good or bad. It just is. The label we put on it, the story we tell ourselves, that's what creates the joy or the suffering. That's the foundation of emotional resilience. Marcus wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize that, and you find strength. You have power over your mind, not the traffic jam, not the rude comment, not the sudden change of plans. Those are outside events, they're neutral facts. A traffic jam is just cars, a comment is just words, a changed plan is just new information. The suffering, the frustration that comes from the judgment you layer on top. You tell yourself this is terrible, this is unfair. That judgment is the source of the pain, but there's an opportunity hidden in that. If your judgment creates the suffering, then you also hold the key to dismantling it. That's the practical application. It's not about denying reality. It's about reframing your perception of it. Take a daily inconvenience like being stuck in traffic. The automatic judgment is that this is a waste of time, the day is ruined. The Stoic Reframe asks you to strip away the story. See the neutral fact. You are in a car, not moving. That's all. From that neutral ground, you can choose a new judgment. Maybe this is a forced pause, an opportunity to listen to an audiobook, a chance to take 10 deep breaths. The event didn't change, your experience of it transformed. So here's a challenge. Identify one situation you're judging negatively right now. A difficult person, a deadline, a setback. Just one. Now try to see it without the label. Strip away good and bad. Describe it as a pure, neutral fact. What happens? The emotional weight often begins to lift. Because you've just exercised the only power that was ever truly yours. You have power over your mind. That power over your mind, it's more than a tool. It's a place, a refuge you can build and then retreat to, no matter what's happening around you. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, a fortress within your own consciousness. Its walls aren't made of stone, they're made of your core principles. The gatekeeper is your own reason. This is the Stoic concept, the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty. And instead of resentment, find a way to love it, because that's the obstacle, and the obstacle becomes the way. Take a normal example, plans for weeks. Dinner with a friend you needed to see, they cancel an hour before. The disappointment is real. The automatic reaction is to fight reality, complain. Dwell on the unfairness, let the evening be ruined. The dichotomy of control asks a question. Can I control my friend's decision to cancel? No, that's not up to me. It's in the second pile. What is up to me? My judgment about it, my choice of what to do with the free evening. Amor Fati goes further. It whispers, what if this cancellation is for your training? What is it teaching you? Maybe it's an invitation to the quiet night you actually needed. Maybe it's a lesson in not pinning your happiness to one fragile expectation. Maybe it's just training in resilience, in rolling with a change of plans without losing your peace. so think of a recent disappointment, a change, a setback that felt personal. What if you looked at it not as a thief stealing your good time, but as a coach, a stern, silent coach assigned to you? What is it trying to train in you? Patience, flexibility, self-reliance, detachment. The love of fate begins when you realize the coach isn't your enemy. The coach is here to make you stronger. And the training ground is your entire life. But what does that training ground look like if you step back, way back? The Stoics had a name for that kind of looking. They called it the view from above. It's a deliberate exercise. You mentally zoom out. You see your street, then your city, then the continent, then the whole earth just hanging there in the dark. You keep pulling back. Human history becomes a brief flash. Your own life becomes a single point of light, vanishing. Marcus Aurelius did this all the time. He wrote about it. Reflect often, he said, on how fast things pass by and disappear, the things themselves and the memories of them. Think of the vast abyss of time behind you, and the equally vast time ahead. In the face of that, he asks, is your little 3-inch span of life not worth a little peace? The point isn't to feel small. It's to feel free, to see your ego, your status, that argument you're replaying in your head, all of it reduced to its true scale. Against continents shifting and stars burning out, how heavy is that slight from a coworker? How permanent is today's money worry? The view from above shrinks the trivial things, and it clarifies what's essential, so make it practical. Imagine you're about to give a big presentation. Your heart is pounding, you're worried about being judged, about stumbling, about what the room will think. Now take 30 seconds, close your eyes. See the room, then see the building, see the city grid, see the country, the planet spinning, see the century you're in, just a tiny slice of the human story. In all that vastness, this 10-minute presentation is a brief event. Your fear of embarrassment is a fleeting feeling. This doesn't make the presentation unimportant. It just removes the imagined catastrophic weight from it. It lets you step forward not as the center of everything, but as a person offering an idea. In a long conversation, the pressure changes. It's no longer about you. It's about the contribution, so bring it down to your life right now. What's a current worry that feels all-consuming? A conflict with a friend taking up mental space, anxiety about a future decision. Now try the view. Picture it from the edge of the solar system. 100 years from now, how will this look? Does its scale change? Often, the worry itself remains, but its power to hijack your peace diminishes. You start to see it as a chapter, not the whole book. That's the gift of perspective. It's always available. You just have to remember to look up. Looking down from that height, you see one thing that can't be avoided. Every story ends, yours too. The Stoics, they didn't look away from that. They made it a practice every day. Memento Mori, remember you will die, and that sounds dark at first. Maybe morbid, but for Marcus Aurelius it wasn't that. It was a clarifier, the ultimate one, a source of energy, not fear. He wrote that you could leave life right now. And you should let that decide what you do, what you say and think. He's not hoping for the end. He's putting in a lens of urgency, and it filters out everything trivial. It's the most important deadline you'll ever have, not from a boss, not from a calendar, from nature itself. And the strange gift of that deadline is it makes everything before it matter more. When you know the book will close, you start to care about the sentences you're writing today. Under that light, procrastination isn't just laziness. It's a quiet betrayal of your own limited time. Holding a grudge becomes a luxury you can't afford. It's like carrying a heavy bag on a long hike and refusing to put it down, even though you know the path is only getting shorter. So make it practical, make it gentle, not with anxiety, but with clarity. Try a simple question at the end of your day. If today had been the last one, would I be content with how I spent it? Not perfect, content. Did I speak with kindness to the people I love? Did I do work that felt meaningful, or at least necessary? Did I waste hours in resentment, or did I choose peace? The question isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, to align your actions with what you truly value, before the noise of tomorrow convinces you to put it off again. What would change if you carried this reminder lightly? Like a compass in your pocket, not a weight, a guide. You might finally send that message you've been hesitating over. You might walk away from a pointless argument. You might sit and watch the sunset without needing to photograph it, because the finite nature of the experience is what makes it precious. Mortality isn't a threat to a life well lived. It's the very ingredient that gives it meaning. So what is one thing you would start, or one thing you would stop, if you fully embrace the limited and beautiful time you have? The answer to that is where your real life begins. The most profound philosophy is silent. It shows up in what you do, not in what you say. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, he studied all the great thinkers. And he constantly warned himself about this trap. He wrote a note to himself: stop talking about what a good man is like and just be one. It was a direct command. All his reading, all those lofty ideals, they were worthless if they just stayed on the page. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't a topic for debate. It was the quality of your next action. Your character isn't built in the library. It's forged in the friction of daily life. When you're tired or provoked, when nobody's watching, that's where philosophy becomes real, or it becomes a decoration. We have incredible access to wisdom now. You can listen to a lecture on patience while you're stuck in traffic. You can read about courage from your couch. And there's a modern danger in that. It's the illusion of progress through consumption. You can mistake understanding a concept for actually embodying it. You can collect quotes like trophies while your reactions stay the same. Marcus saw this in himself. He had all the resources, all the teachers, and still he had to write that note. A personal admonition to close the book and live the lesson. So make it practical, take patience. You can read 10 articles on its importance. You can agree intellectually. But the real test isn't on the screen. It's in the slow-moving line at the grocery store. When the person in front of you has a complicated return, your body tenses. Your mind starts crafting a story about inconvenience. That is the moment, that's the arena. The philosophical move is to catch that story, to feel the tension and choose not to feed it. To put the book down and practice the thing, to stand there and simply be in the line without adding mental suffering on top of the weight. That action, that tiny choice, it does more to build a patient character than 1,000 hours of study. Because it rewires a habit, it proves your knowledge has muscle. So where is that gap for you between what you know and what you consistently do? Maybe you know gratitude is powerful. But do you pause each night to name one specific thing you're thankful for? Maybe you know anger is often a secondary emotion, but in a heated moment, do you take the breath to find what's underneath? Identify one piece of wisdom that hasn't become a reflex, and then design a single, small action for today, not a grand resolution, a specific deed. That's how you stop talking about the good man and start becoming one. The obstacle is the way. That's not just a saying, it's a law in Stoic thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote it down. An impediment to action actually advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. A fire makes what it burns stronger. Think about a log. It's just wood. That's its potential, but the fire reveals what's hidden. It becomes light and heat, so the obstacle isn't a blockade. It's the fire. It's the condition you need for growth. Without resistance, there's no strength. Without friction, you don't move forward. It flips the whole story of hardship. A setback isn't a detour from your path. It is the path. It's the only path there is. You see this pattern everywhere in history. We just see the triumph, not the fire that created it. Thomas Edison's laboratory burned down, a massive fire. Years of work, prototypes, all gone. He didn't see it as an ending. He told his sons there was great value in the disaster. It cleared out all their mistakes. He started fresh the next morning. The fire was the obstacle, and rebuilding from the ashes that became the way to a more refined vision. In your own life, the scale is different. But the mechanism is the same: a professional setback, a missed promotion, a cancelled project. It feels like a wall. The automatic story is failure, being passed over, but the Stoic Reframe asks something else. If this is the fire, what hidden strength is it meant to reveal? Maybe the missed promotion burns away your reliance on a title for validation. It forces you to find your worth in the work itself. Maybe the cancelled project clears space, like Edison's fire. It makes room for a new idea that fits the moment better. Your creativity, your resilience, your adaptability, those muscles only develop when the comfortable plan falls apart. So take a moment, identify one current obstacle. A difficult person, a financial pinch, a skill you lack. Now brainstorm one way this obstacle could be used. If it's a difficult person, they're training you in patience, in clear communication. If it's a financial pinch, it's teaching resourcefulness. It's clarifying what you truly value. If it's a skill you lack, that gap is the perfect map. It shows your next step in learning. The obstacle isn't in your way. It's showing you the way. You could start to thank your obstacles for the training they provide. We all have the same 24 hours, but we act like they're endless. We scroll, we put things off, we fill the quiet with noise, thinking there's always a later. The Stoics didn't see it that way. For them, time was the one currency you can't earn back. Once it's spent, it's gone. That's not to cause panic, it's to create focus. The shortness of life brings a kind of urgent clarity. It makes you ask, if not now, then when? Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He said to think of those who chased fame, and remember how it's all forgotten in the river of time. He's not saying your work is meaningless. He's asking you to check your motivation. Are you chasing applause that fades, or building a character that lasts? The applause is just an echo. Your integrity is the stone. Today, we've swapped the pursuit of fame for a new busyness. We fill our calendars to feel important. We answer emails to feel productive. But is that activity, or is it distraction from the harder work? The work of thinking deeply, of connecting in a real way, of creating something that matters to you. So here's a practical thing: a weekly time audit. It's simple. It can be revealing. For 1 week, carry a small notebook or use a note on your phone. At each day's end, write down the 2 or 3 main things that took your hours, not in detail but in broad strokes: work, commute, screens, family, learning, leisure. Be brutally honest. Don't judge it yet, just see it. At the week's end, look at the pattern. How much of your time matches your stated values? How much is on autopilot, reacting to other people's demands or the pull of easy distraction? You might find what you call a busy life is actually a scattered one. The audit isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. It's the first step in taking back your most precious resource. So with that awareness, ask yourself this: what's one time-wasting activity you could cut this week to get hours back for what matters? Maybe it's 30 minutes less on social media, used for a walk instead. Maybe it's saying no to one optional meeting to finish a project you care about. The goal isn't to end all leisure. It's to make sure your time reflects your real priorities. Because a life of intention is built one reclaimed hour at a time. That reclaimed hour is a gift you give yourself. But then you have to figure out what to do with it when other people are around. Judging others is one of the fastest things we do. A driver cuts you off and they're an idiot. A coworker sends a short email and they're being difficult. A friend misses a call and they're inconsiderate. You label the person and the story is done. But the Stoics asked a different question: what if that story isn't right? And what if by telling it you're the one who ends up suffering? Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He would tell himself, when you wake up, the people you'll deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, surly. They're like this because they can't tell good from evil. That sounds harsh, but he wasn't saying it to condemn them. He was saying it to prepare himself. So he wouldn't be surprised, so he wouldn't waste his energy on anger when people act from their own limited view. Then he adds another line, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil. I understand that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, so I can't be angry with my brother. I shouldn't feel irritation. We were born to work together. That's the shift from judgment to understanding. They act from a flaw, yes, but so have you, so have I. Their flaw is ignorance of what is good. Your job isn't to correct their ignorance in the middle of your anger. Your job is to remember your own understanding and act from that. This idea cuts down conflict. Most arguments aren't about facts. They're about the stories we tell about the other person's intent. You assume malice where there might be stress. You assume laziness where there might be overwhelm. When you pause the judgment, you make space for curiosity. And curiosity is the antidote to gossip, to resentment, to taking things personally. So the practice is a simple pause. Before you criticize a colleague's decision or complain about a family member's habit, you ask one question. What information do I not have? What burden might they be carrying that I can't see? Maybe that short email was sent from a hospital waiting room. Maybe the forgotten call happened during a personal crisis. You don't need to know the truth to get something from the pause. The pause itself changes your reaction. It moves you from attack to resilience. You stop letting their behavior decide your inner weather. Think of someone you've judged recently, someone whose actions frustrated you. Now ask that question, what unknown burden might they be carrying? It's not about excusing poor behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the corrosive energy of constant judgment. When you judge less, you understand more, and in that understanding, you find a deeper kind of peace. One that doesn't depend on everyone else behaving perfectly. The discipline of desire is about training your wants, aligning them with what's good for you, with nature. The Stoic goal was to desire only what's in your control, your character, your actions, and to meet everything else with indifference. This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming free from the exhausting chase for things that can be taken away. Marcus Aurelius wrote about stripping away the shell. See what the thing really is. The praise you want is just the sound of air moving. The luxury item is just metal and stone. The status is just a story people agree to tell. The shell is the glittering surface. The reality underneath is often simple and often not worth the turmoil. We see this everywhere now, in consumerism, in the hunt for validation. You scroll and see a curated life and you feel that pang. You want that recognition, that object. The discipline asks you to pause, to strip the shell. That new gadget, is it a tool or is it a shell for the feeling of being ahead? The perfect vacation photo, is it a record of joy or a shell for the craving to be envied? The desire itself isn't wrong, but following it without examination is like letting a stranger navigate your life. So make it practical. The next time you feel that pull toward an impulse buy or the urge to post for validation, insert a pause. Don't act, just examine it. Ask, what is the shell here? What is the reality? Am I wanting this object, or am I wanting the feeling I believe it will provide security, acceptance, prestige? Then ask the harder question, could I cultivate that feeling internally through my own actions right now? Could security come from living within my means? Could acceptance come from approving of myself? Could prestige be replaced by the quiet dignity of doing good work? This is the realignment. You redirect the energy from an external trophy to an internal quality. What's one external thing you desire right now? A promotion, a relationship milestone, a possession. Now, what internal quality could you pursue instead? If it's the promotion, perhaps the quality is mastery, becoming so skilled your value is undeniable, regardless of the title. If it's a relationship, perhaps the quality is being a more present, loving person, which you can practice on your own. By disciplining desire, you stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be happy. You build the source of that happiness within your own character, where no one can touch it. A beehive survives through shared purpose. It's not about one bee's glory. Marcus Aurelius saw human society the same way. We're built for cooperation, he wrote. Like feet or hands, like eyelids or the rows of upper and lower teeth, acting against each other is unnatural, and anger toward someone, that's forgetting what we share. The Stoics had a word for this, Sympatheia, the universe as a single living organism. We're all parts of it. Your well-being is tied to mine, not sentimentally but in a practical, physical sense. A society where people see each other as separate enemies, that's a body at war with itself. It can't function without pain. This idea shatters isolation. It says your loneliness, that feeling of being adrift, is a story. The reality is connection. You're a thread in a human fabric. When you pull away, you don't just isolate yourself. You weaken the weave for everyone. Marcus turned this into a command for himself. What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Every action you take either strengthens the whole or weakens it. There's no neutral ground. That flips the script on modern individualism. It's not about denying your needs. It's realizing your deepest need is to be part of something meaningful. Something larger than personal desire. In our world, that feels countercultural. We're digitally connected but tribally divided. Online anonymity lets us treat others as abstract ideas to defeat, not as parts of the same whole. Political polarization feeds on us versus them, forgetting that a nation, like a body, needs all its parts to work together. Even when they perform different functions, the Stoic view doesn't ask you to agree with everyone. It asks you to recognize their shared humanity first. To see the person behind the opinion, the practical application is simple and powerful. Perform one small, anonymous act of kindness, not for recognition, not for thanks. Do it purely as an exercise in remembering connection. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you. Leave a genuine note in a library book. Pick up litter in a park without telling anyone. The action is small. The internal shift is monumental. In that moment, you're choosing to be a benefit to the hive. You're embodying Sympatheia. You're reminding yourself through action that you're not a lonely island. You're a contributing cell in a living community. So how do you see your role not just as an individual, but as a part of a larger human community? It starts by asking in your next interaction, however brief, does this strengthen the connection or fray it? Your answer becomes your contribution. Anxiety is about the future. Regret is about the past. Your life is in between. It's happening here. The present is the only place you can ever live. It's the only place where action is possible, where choice is real. Marcus Aurelius wrote a reminder to himself. He said very little is needed for a happy life. It's all within you, in your way of thinking, and in this moment. That sufficiency he talks about. It's not about having enough things. It's about seeing the raw material for peace is already here. In the immediate experience of being alive, the sun's warmth, the sound of your breath, the floor under your feet, these aren't trivial, they're the foundation. Modern mindfulness practices echo this Stoic focus. It's the same core training, to pull your awareness away from the invented stories of what might happen, or the old stories of what already did. To anchor it in the tangible reality of what is, right now. This isn't about ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It's about reclaiming your attention from their grip. Your most vital resource, so you can plan from clarity, not fear. So you can learn from memory, not drown in it. The practical application is simple and difficult. Have a focused, device-free conversation. Just one. Put your phone in another room. Look at the person you're with. Listen to their words without composing your reply. Notice their tone, the expressions on their face. When your mind wanders to your to-do list, guide it back to the human being in front of you. In that act, you're mastering the present. Choosing reality over distraction, building the muscle of attention. So here's a small experiment, a direct training. Set a timer for 2 minutes, just 2. And for those 120 seconds, immerse yourself in your immediate senses. Don't try to change anything, just notice. What do you hear? The hum of an appliance, distant traffic, your own breathing. What do you feel? The texture of your clothing, the weight of your body in the chair, the air on your skin. What do you see? The play of light on a surface, the specific color of an object nearby. For 2 minutes, let the future and the past fade. Be entirely here. What you'll likely notice is the present moment, when you actually meet it, is not lacking. It's full, and within that fullness you find a quiet kind of mastery. The anxiety may return when the timer stops, but you've just proven it's not the whole story. You have a place to return to, a place where your life is actually happening. Choosing hardship on purpose, it sounds backwards. Why would you ever decide to be cold or hungry or uncomfortable when you don't have to be? But the Stoics did that. They called it voluntary discomfort. It was a training exercise, not punishment, but a kind of immunity. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He'd remind himself to eat just enough to stop the hunger, to drink just enough for thirst, to wear plain clothes, to live in a modest space. This wasn't about being poor. It was about proving something to himself. Proving that his happiness didn't come from luxury, that his comfort was internal, not something out there in the world. The purpose has a few layers. First, it builds gratitude. You don't really understand warmth until you've felt a real chill. You don't value a simple meal until you've gone without one. By stepping into a small hardship voluntarily, you reset your baseline. The ordinary comforts you ignore suddenly feel like gifts. Second, it cuts the fear of loss. So much of our anxiety is about protecting what we have, our lifestyle, our status, all the conveniences. What if you lost them? That thought can be terrifying. But if you've already practiced living with less, that fear loses its grip. You've shown yourself you can handle it, that you're more resilient than your possessions. Third, and this is the core, it proves your self-sufficiency. Your inner strength doesn't need central heating or a full pantry to stand. Voluntary discomfort is the drill for that. It tests the walls. It shows you that your peace, your character, it's separate from external conditions. Modern applications are straightforward. It's deciding to take a cold shower instead of a hot one. Not for the whole shower, but for the last 30 seconds of your normal routine. It's a short, intentional fast, skipping one meal to feel the hunger and watch it pass. It's a digital detox for an evening, leaving your phone in another room and sitting with the quiet. Each act is a small declaration. I am not ruled by my craving for comfort. I am in command, so try a practical step. At your next meal, choose the modest option. If you are going to have something rich, have something simple instead. A bowl of soup, a piece of fruit, some plain rice. Eat it slowly. Pay attention to the flavors. Notice the story your mind starts telling. It might whisper that this isn't enough, that you're missing out. That's the voice this practice is meant to train. You acknowledge the story, and then you finish your meal. You'll likely find you're perfectly satisfied. Not just with the food, but with your own discipline. What small comfort could you go without this week to strengthen that resilience? Could you walk instead of drive for a short errand? Could you turn the thermostat down 1 degree? Could you leave your phone behind for an afternoon walk? The goal isn't to live an ascetic life, it's to build a resilient mind. One that knows the difference between a want and a need, and one that stays steady because it's been tested by choice from the inside. You're living for someone's applause. It's a question that can stop you. The need for approval, it's a cage. You change your words to fit in. You hold back an idea, and each time you give away a piece of your peace. Marcus Aurelius saw this even as emperor. He wrote about chasing what people will say about you after you're gone. He said you have no control over what's said when you're not there. And you won't be there. It's a stark point. The opinions of others, today's gossip, tomorrow's fame, they exist somewhere you can't control. You can't even witness it. To base your happiness on that is building your house on a ghost. Public opinion shifts. It praises you, then it forgets you. A clear conscience is different. It's an internal compass. It points true north no matter the weather. It's knowing you acted with integrity, that you did the work for its own sake, not for the applause. That inner knowing, it's a stability, a deeper freedom. Think about sharing something creative, a piece of writing, a song, a business idea. Before you share it, the fear can be paralyzing. What if they don't like it? What if they laugh? That fear is the tyranny of opinion. It's the imagined audience holding a veto. The Stoic move is to separate the act from the reaction. Your job is to create the work to your own standards of truth and craft. That's your domain. How people receive it, their likes, their critiques, that's their domain. You can't control it, and when you absorb that, a liberation happens. You share the work not to harvest praise, but to complete the act of creation, to offer your contribution however it's met. So what would you do if you were indifferent to others' opinions? Maybe you'd wear the outfit you actually like, not the acceptable one. Maybe you'd voice that idea in the meeting. Maybe you'd start that project you call a silly dream. The action matters less than the shift. You stop living as a performer on a stage you never built. For judges you never chose, you start living from the quiet ground of your own conviction. The universe moves with a rhythm. It's not chaos. The Stoics had a name for that universal nature. This grand, rational order, seasons turning, stars following their paths, life moving in cycles. But the key is this: your own mind, your reason, is a piece of that same order. To live virtuously, Marcus Aurelius said, is to live in harmony with that nature, the cosmos outside and the rational essence inside you. He wrote that nothing creates greatness of mind like this, to accept each thing that happens as if you willed it yourself. To take it as part of the universal nature. This isn't blind submission, it's intelligent alignment, seeing your life as a note in a larger symphony and choosing to play it in tune. Fighting the natural flow creates friction. Resisting aging, for example, is a fight against a universal law. Everything that lives changes. To rage against wrinkles or a slower pace is to declare war on reality itself. Harmony comes from accepting the cycle, seeing the dignity in experience, the wisdom in earned years. The beauty shifts, but it doesn't disappear, it deepens. The practical part is finding those points of alignment in daily life, where your routine can sync with natural rhythms instead of fighting them. Maybe waking with the sun, even 15 minutes earlier, for a quiet moment in the growing light. Or structuring work in cycles, focused effort, then genuine rest mirroring the pulse of day and night. Maybe just eating foods that are in season, a small, tangible connection to the earth's turn. These aren't magical fixes, they're acts of conscious alignment. They remind your nervous system you're part of a coherent whole, not a separate entity battling the world. So pause and ask, does your current path feel in harmony with your core nature and reason? Not with society's expectations, but with your own deepest understanding of what's true and good. If something feels out of sync, what is it? Is it a job that forces you to betray your values every day? A relationship that requires you to silence your voice? A pace of life that leaves no room for reflection for the very reason that defines your nature? That friction is a signal. It's nature's way of telling you you're playing a note out of key. And the correction starts with one small, realigning choice. Gratitude for the Stoics is really about seeing clearly. It's not about forcing a positive mood or ignoring what's hard. It's the act of recognizing what's already there, what's already working, what's already a gift, and that practice, it directly fights against that constant wanting. That habit of complaining, it grounds you in what's enough. Marcus Aurelius started his meditations with gratitude. He wrote a whole chapter of it. He listed people, not things. He thanked his grandfather for showing him good character. He thanked his father for his modesty, for his steady temper, his mother for her piety and her generosity. He even thanked the gods for the good fortune of having the teachers he had. This wasn't sentimental, it was foundational. He was mapping the sources of his own character. Acknowledging the debts, solidifying his place in a chain of giving. It's a model to see our own lives as built by others, by contributions seen and unseen. The modern practice is simple, the nightly gratitude journal, not a long list, just 3 things, but the key is specificity. Not just my family, but the way my partner made coffee this morning without being asked. Not just my health, but the feeling of my legs carrying me up the stairs today. That specificity trains your attention to scan the day for evidence of good, however small. It rewires your brain's natural negativity bias. It proves that even on a bad day, gifts existed. You just had to look, then you take it a step further. Into more challenging territory, find something to appreciate in a difficult person, in a difficult situation. This is where gratitude becomes a kind of superpower. That colleague who's overly critical, can you be grateful for the training in patience they provide, the traffic jam that made you late? Can you be grateful for the unexpected 10 minutes of silence? For a podcast you enjoy, you're not saying the situation is good, you're mining it for a hidden benefit, practicing the art of finding the gift within the obstacle. So pause for a moment, look around. What 3 ordinary things are you taking for granted right now? The electricity powering your device, the roof over your head at this moment. The simple ability to draw a breath without pain. These aren't small things, they're the fundamental conditions of your life. To see them as gifts is to step out of scarcity into abundance. It's to realize that much of what you chase is already here. Gratitude shows you what you already have, but when you have very little. When everything you thought defined you is stripped away, that's when you see a deeper kind of freedom, not freedom from circumstance, it's the sovereignty of choice. Your response is the one thing that can't be taken. We talked about the dichotomy of control, sorting things into what's up to you and what's not. This is where that becomes a fortress. Your voluntary choices, your assent to something, your judgment of it, the action you take after, those stay yours always. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize that and you find strength. He meant your mind can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. The event itself is neutral, your internal verdict, that's where your freedom is. This echoes in Viktor Frankl's work. He was a psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps. In the middle of that suffering, he identified what he called the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. To choose your own way. He saw that even when every physical liberty was gone, this inner sovereignty could remain. It's the ultimate application of Stoic principle. Not in theory, but in the crucible. The event isn't up to you. Your stance toward the event, that's your domain, your kingdom. So take a modern, mundane moment. Your commute, you're on a train or in your car, and there's an unexpected delay. It was supposed to be 20 minutes, but it's been an hour. The external event, the mechanical failure, the traffic accident, that's not in your control. It's in the second pile. What is in your control? Your judgment. You can judge this as a disaster, a personal insult to your time, a reason to seethe. That choice fills the next hour with tension, or you can choose a different judgment. You can see it as found time, an unplanned pocket of solitude. You can listen to an album all the way through. You can draft that email you've been putting off. You can just sit and watch the world outside the window. The delay didn't change. Your experience of it is transformed by the one thing you command. Your own mind. So here's a prompt. Recall a recent event that upset you, a disagreement, a setback, a disappointment. Now analyze it through this lens. What was actually in your sphere of control in that moment? Was it the other person's words? No. Was it the market's reaction? No. Was it the outcome you wanted? No, your sphere was your interpretation, your breath before you spoke, your decision to listen or to defend, your choice to learn or to lament. How did you use that sovereignty? The answer isn't about blame, it's about empowerment for next time, because seeing that sphere clearly is the first step to ruling it. A fig isn't the skin. It isn't the stem or how the seeds are arranged. It's the fruit, the sweet part, the part you actually want, and our minds, they tend to grab onto the skin. They cling to all these complicated stories we wrap around simple facts. That overcomplication, it just makes stress. It creates decision fatigue. It makes you second-guess everything. It clutters up your thinking. Stoicism goes the other way. It's about seeing directly, honestly, to see the thing itself without the story you've added. Marcus Aurelius said it. He wrote that if you're distressed by something outside you, the pain isn't in the thing. It's in your judgment of it, and you can revoke that judgment. Anytime he's pointing to that core practice of stripping the fig, the event is neutral. Your distress comes from the story you've built around it. The story about what it means, or what it says about you, or what it might lead to. That story is the skin. The fruit is the simple fact. The email was sent. The meeting is at 3. The number is the number. You see this everywhere now, especially online. A simple message turns into a maze of hidden meaning. We read tone into text. We imagine agendas. We scroll through endless options, frozen by the fear of choosing wrong. This isn't just inefficient. It drains your attention. Your peace, the Stoic fix, is to ask, what is this by its nature? Describe it in the plainest terms, not my boss is undermining me, but my boss suggested a different approach. The first one is a story full of judgment. The second is a neutral fact. From that clean start, you can choose a response. You can evaluate the suggestion on its own. You've cut through the noise to the operational truth. Take decision fatigue. You're picking software or planning a trip or deciding what's for dinner. The pros and cons list gets longer. Reviews contradict each other. Hours go by in research and indecision. The Stoic move is to go back to your core values. What's the essential purpose here? For the software, is it reliability or features? For the trip, is it relaxation or adventure? For dinner, is it nutrition or comfort? Name the one non-negotiable value. Let that value make the choice. The other options, they become irrelevant. They're the skin. You go for the fruit. So here's a question. What's one thing you're overcomplicating right now? A relationship you're overanalyzing? A career move you're researching to death? A project stuck because it has to be perfect? Strip the fig. Ask, what's the simplest, truest view of this? Describe it in one plain sentence. No drama. Usually, the next step becomes obvious. It might not be easy, but it's clear. And clarity is where you start to get free from all that tangled stress you've made. Your mind keeps swinging between what's already happened and what might come next. It never settles on what's actually here, the thing right in front of you. The Stoics thought of that as a kind of stealing. You're taking attention away from what you're supposed to be doing now, and you're splitting your own focus into pieces. Marcus Aurelius told himself something very clear. He said, do everything as if it were the last thing you'll ever do. He didn't mean you should hurry through it in a panic. He meant the exact opposite, a deep, complete kind of focus. If this really was the final thing you ever did, you'd give it your full care. You'd be entirely there for it. That level of attention changes ordinary work. It turns it into something like a service to everything else. Because when you do the small thing in front of you really well, you make the whole system stronger. You become a steady part of how things work. This connects to what we now call flow. that state where time disappears because what you're doing and what you're capable of line up perfectly. You're not thinking about your inbox or what people think of you or what you'll eat later. You're just in the task. The Stoic kind of focus is how you get to that state. It's the decision to clear out the mental noise and just engage. So make it something you can do. Pick one piece of work, one specific thing, not your whole list. One report or one design or one section. Set a timer for 25 minutes. That's your single task sprint. Before you begin, just notice everything else tugging at your mind. Then put those things aside on purpose. They don't exist for these 25 minutes. Then start. Your only job is to be with this one task. When your mind drifts to a worry, just bring it back. Not with annoyance, but calmly, like you're tending to one plant. You're not battling distraction. You're practicing loyalty to what you're supposed to be doing right now. What you'll probably notice is that in those 25 minutes of full attention, you get more done, and you feel less tired than in hours of jumping between things. The work gets better because you're actually there for it. So ask yourself, what's the most important thing you should be doing right now in this hour? Is it listening to someone? Is it writing the next part? Is it actually resting so you can recover? And are you giving it your full attention, or just the little bits left over after all your mental noise? The point isn't to feel guilty. It's to take something back, to reclaim this moment and do it right. That's the most direct kind of control you have. Nothing you see stays the same. The face in your mirror, the city skyline, the relationship you think is solid. It's all in motion, a constant state of becoming and dissolving. The Stoics called this universal flux. And they saw that our suffering doesn't come from the change itself. It comes from our grip, our white-knuckled grip on the way things are right now. Our insistence that this moment, this version, should last. Marcus Aurelius wrote about time as a river made up of events, a violent stream. As soon as a thing is seen, it's carried away. Something else comes, and that will be carried away too. He wasn't being gloomy, he was stating a fact. A fact of physics. To stand in that river and demand it stop flowing, that's how you get pulled under. The decay of things, the shift of circumstances. It's not a tragedy. It's the operating system of reality. When you internalize that, something shifts. You start to practice non-attachment, not indifference. A lighter hold. You enjoy the beautiful vase without needing it to never break. You appreciate your role without tying your whole identity to the title. You love people deeply, but you understand relationships like living things have to grow. They have to change form. This perspective is practical. It's the philosophy behind decluttering, but not just your closet, your mind. Look at a possession you're attached to, a book you'll never read again. A gift from a relationship that's ended. Holding onto it that isn't preserving the past. It's anchoring your present to a ghost. Letting it go isn't forgetting. It's honoring the transience. You create space, literally and mentally, space for what is now. Mental decluttering works the same, that old grudge you're storing. That story of how you were wronged years ago. It's a mental object. It takes up space. The event is over. It has changed, but you're clinging to the narrative that keeps it alive. And it causes suffering. To declutter it is to acknowledge the river has moved on, to put the story down, not because it didn't happen, but because carrying it serves no purpose. Not in the present flow of your life. So ask yourself quietly, what are you holding onto too tightly? What do you know in your bones is temporary? Is it your physical youth, your current salary, the dynamic of a friendship, the dream house? Can you feel the tension that comes from that grip? Now imagine for a moment loosening your hold. Not letting go entirely, just relaxing your fingers, allowing the thing to be what it is. A passing moment in the river. The love isn't less, the appreciation isn't less. It becomes more vivid, more precious when you see it not as a permanent possession but as a fleeting gift, a gift in the endless stream. Anger gives you this feeling of power. It's a surge, a heat. It makes you feel righteous, but that feeling is a trick, a convincing one. The Stoics saw it as the opposite of strength. They saw it as a kind of temporary madness. A surrender. When you get angry, you hand the controls of your mind over to someone else's mistake. You let their action decide your state, and in that surrender, you harm yourself first. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. He asked, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the causes? The insult, the slight, the inconvenience, that's the cause. The real damage is what happens inside you after, the hours of stewing, the clouded judgment, the harsh words you can't take back, the peace you lose. The cause is a pebble. Your anger turns it into a boulder you have to carry. So the Stoic goal wasn't to never feel that initial flash. That's just a biological signal. The goal was to refuse to feed it, to not grant it assent, to see it as a wave that will pass if you don't choose to ride it. Healthier responses are on the other side of that pause. Understanding asks what ignorance or pain might be driving the other person. Correction asks what can be done practically to improve things without the drama of blame. And sometimes the strongest response is a calm indifference, a decision that the matter isn't worth your limited energy. You just walk away, not in defeat, but in command of your own resources. The practical tool is a pre-commitment. You decide now on your trigger and your pause. For example, if I feel my face get hot in a debate, I'll excuse myself and get a glass of water. If a driver cuts me off, I'll take one deep breath before I react. If I read a frustrating email, I'll wait an hour before replying. That pause creates a gap. A space between the trigger and your action. In that space, your reason has a chance to re-engage. So when you feel that heat rise next time, ask yourself a reflective question. What underlying fear or helplessness is often beneath your anger? Are you afraid of being disrespected, of losing control, of being seen as weak? That fear is the real opponent, not the person in front of you. Addressing that fear is where true strength gets built. The final quiet of the day is where a Stoic finds strength. They would turn the light of reason inward before sleep. That was the evening review, a deliberate audit of the day's thoughts and actions, not for guilt but for clarity, to see where you drifted from your principles and where you held to them. Marcus Aurelius did this constantly. His writings are full of these private examinations. He would write, "Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence. But I cannot be angry with my brother, nor hate him." That's a preparation, but the review looks back. He'd note his own failings with directness. You see him catch a moment of vanity or a flash of irritation. And he'd correct himself right there on the page. The purpose is surgical, to identify the error in judgment so it doesn't become a habit, to acknowledge the small victory so it gets reinforced. This practice turns experience into a teacher. It closes the loop between philosophy and life. Without it, wisdom stays theoretical. The evening review makes it practical. One day at a time, a modern format can be simple. It takes just a few minutes. Find a quiet space. Ask yourself 3 questions without harsh judgment, just observation. First, what did I do well today? Where did I act with courage, patience, justice, or wisdom? Maybe you listened patiently when you wanted to interrupt. Maybe you completed a necessary task with focus. Acknowledge that. Second, where did I stray from my principles? Where did I let an external event dictate my peace? Perhaps you snapped at a loved one out of fatigue. Perhaps you spent an hour in anxious scrolling. See it clearly, but without self-flagellation. You're a scientist noting data. Third, what will I improve tomorrow? Based on today's observation, choose one small, specific intention, not a grand vow. If you were impatient, your intention might be to take 3 deep breaths before responding. If you were distracted, your intention might be to do your first 25 minutes of work without checking your phone. This isn't about creating a perfect record. It's about progressive alignment. Each evening, you gently nudge your ship back toward true north. So take a moment now in this pause, without judgment, review your last 24 hours. Through the lens of Stoic virtue, what do you observe? A moment of resilience you didn't celebrate, a reaction you'd like to understand better. The simple act of looking with honesty and kindness begins the repair. It turns yesterday's stumbles into tomorrow's footing. Your character is the only thing that can be good or bad. Everything else, your health, your reputation, your wealth, the Stoics had a term for that. Adiaphora, indifference, it doesn't mean you don't care. It means they don't have the moral weight. They can't make you good or evil. They're just preferred or dispreferred. A long life is preferred to a short one, comfort over pain, but a short life, if it's lived with courage, that's good. A hard life, if it's endured with integrity, that's good. The virtue is in how you use the circumstance, not in the circumstance itself. Marcus Aurelius had an image for this. He said, "Remember, what pulls the strings is the hidden thing inside you." That's where your true life is. The actor's voice, the costume, the stage, those are just props. Your mind is the actor. The props can be lavish, they can be simple. They don't change the quality of the performance. Your health is a prop, your bank account, your job title is a costume. They can make the performance easier or more challenging, but the merit of the actor that's judged on something else, on the choices made with the material at hand. And this reclassification, it's liberating. A career setback isn't a verdict on your worth. It's a change of props. Maybe the stage gets simpler, the costume less impressive, but the actor's task is the same. To perform with dignity and skill, given this new set, a health challenge isn't a moral failure. It's a difficult stage set. The performance now requires courage, patience, grace, and in that demanding role, your character has a chance to shine in a way it never could on an easy, comfortable stage. So make it practical. Imagine two scenes. In the first, you get a promotion, a raise, public praise. The preferred indifferents are flowing your way. The Stoic response isn't to pretend you're not pleased. It's to receive it with gratitude, but without letting it inflate your identity. You see it as a tool, more resources, more influence to be used for good work. You don't mistake the applause for the performance. In the second scene, you get a rejection. A project you led is cancelled. The feedback is harsh. The dispreferred indifferents arrive. The Stoic response is to feel the disappointment. That's natural, but then to look past the props. The stage has changed. Your role now is to demonstrate resilience, to learn, to adapt with integrity. The quality of your character is being tested by this, not defined by it, by the loss of a preferred indifferent. In both cases, your inner equilibrium, your commitment to virtue, that's the steady center. The external winds blow, but you're anchored in something deeper than praise or blame. So pause, ask yourself this. What indifferent in your life are you currently treating as if it were good or bad? Is it your social media follower count, treating it as a measure of worth? Is it your physical appearance, tying it to your lovability? Is it a financial goal, believing your security hinges on it? Identify that one thing. Now try to see it as a prop, a tool, a piece of the stage set. How would your relationship to it change if you saw it that way? The anxiety around losing it that often softens, the arrogance from having it that often fades. And you are left simply as the actor, ready to play your part well with whatever you've been given. He had this counsel of the wise, but it was inside his own mind. Marcus Aurelius would start his private writings by listing the people who formed him. He'd name their virtues like items in a recipe for character. From his grandfather, a calm temper. From his father, modesty, a sense of manliness. From his mother, piety and generosity. He wasn't just remembering them. He was studying their qualities as if they were still there with him, giving silent advice. This was his fellowship, a hand-picked assembly of the dead, where their best traits lived on in his choices. And that shows you something about influence. It's not just the people physically around you who shape you. It's the company you keep in your thoughts. The voices you listen to there, the examples you study, the character you choose to admire. You can curate your own counsel across centuries. You have access to the wisest mentors who ever lived through the pages of a book, the record of what they did. This turns history, literature, into a training ground. You're not just learning facts, you're selecting models to emulate. Marcus wrote about this directly. He said, "From my brother Severus, I learned a love of family, of truth, of justice. And from him I got the idea of a state with one law for all, based on equal rights, freedom of speech." He was cataloging traits he wanted to strengthen in himself by remembering where he saw them first, in someone he respected. This isn't passive consumption. It's active, deliberate character building. You see a virtue in another person, and you make a conscious decision to practice it. In our world, we often curate our feeds for entertainment, or news, or gossip. The Stoic approach asks you to curate for character, who gets a seat at your table, whose voice echoes in your mind when you face a hard choice. Is it the voice of cynicism from a headline, or the measured reason of a philosopher? Is it the boastful arrogance of a celebrity, or the quiet dignity of some historical figure who served others? Your internal counsel votes on every decision you make. So the practical step is to consciously build that counsel. One powerful way is through biography. Reading the life of someone you respect is like a long-form mentorship. You see their virtues in action, but also their flaws, their struggles. You see how they navigated failure, which is often more instructive than their success. You witness patience over a lifetime, not just in a quote. You see courage played out across decades. Choose one figure from any field: science, art, leadership, activism. Read not just what they achieved, but how they made decisions, the principles that guided them when no one was watching. Then, take it from the page into your day. Identify one specific trait they had. Maybe it was the relentless curiosity of a scientist like Marie Curie. Your practice for the week could be to ask deeper questions about one ordinary thing in your life. Or maybe it was the unwavering integrity of someone like Abraham Lincoln. Your practice could be to tell one hard truth kindly where you might have stayed silent before. The trait becomes a lens, a filter for your own actions. So the reflective prompt is this: who are 3 people, living or dead, whose character you most admire? Not for their fame, but for their qualities. And what is one specific trait from each that you can practice today? It could be as simple as the kindness of a grandparent, the focus of an artist, the calm of a teacher. Name them, and then, for this day, let those chosen traits guide one small choice. When you do that, you invite them into your fellowship. You make their wisdom present. And you continue the work Marcus began at his desk, weaving the best of others into the fabric of your own becoming. Most of what we fear never actually happens. Studies on anxiety show that more than 90% of our worries are about things that won't ever occur. It's a huge amount of mental energy spent, a kind of tax we pay on a future we're just making up. For the Stoics, this wasn't just something they noticed. It was a reason to take that energy back. They drew a line between preparing for something usefully and the draining cycle of worry. They had a practice called the premeditation of evils, and that's not worry. It's a calm, logical walk-through of what might go wrong. You think it through, not to frighten yourself, but to get your response ready. To see that you could manage it. It's like a fire drill for your thoughts. You go through the steps calmly, so if there's ever an alarm, you don't freeze. You just act. Worry is different. It's a loop that doesn't end. It's turning over an imagined future with no plan, just fear. It's like sitting in the dark, listening for a sound, instead of just checking the door and going to bed. Marcus Aurelius got to the center of it. He said you suffer more in your imagination than in reality. The story your mind makes about a future event is almost always worse, more frightening than the event itself would be. The real thing, when it comes, is something you meet one moment at a time. You have your resources, you have your breath, you have your ability to react. The imagined version has none of that to hold on to. It's just pure dread. So the practical step is to anchor yourself in the present when that spiral begins. One strong method is to write it down. Take your biggest, most recurring worry and give it a name. Then, in simple terms, write out the worst-case scenario it's afraid of. Be exact. Now, next to that, write down the real, evidence-based chance of that scenario happening. Not the scared probability, the factual one, based on your own history, on data, on logic. You might write, worry about public speaking. Worst case, I fumble my words and everyone thinks I'm not capable. Probability, based on my last 5 talks where nothing went terribly wrong, maybe 5%. Putting the worry on paper does 2 things. It traps the looping thought, and it makes your rational mind get involved. The monster in the dark often gets smaller when you just ask a simple question. What's the actual likelihood? The next question matters just as much. If that unlikely thing did happen, what would my first real step be? That moves you from feeling like a victim to being a problem solver. From a state of worry to a state of readiness. So bring this to your own life. What's your most persistent worry right now? The one that shows up at 3 a.m. Or in a quiet moment, name it. Now, what's the actual evidence-based chance of it occurring? Not the feeling, the fact. In that gap between the feeling and the fact, you find a little space to breathe. And in that space, your power to choose your response starts over. The duty is woven into the connection. If we're parts of a single whole, acting only for your own fragment doesn't make sense. It's like a hand trying to nourish itself while the body starves. The hand won't thrive that way. For Marcus Aurelius, this wasn't a suggestion, it was an imperative. He wrote that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your well-being is inseparable from the health of your community. So right action is action that considers the whole. That's social virtue in its most practical form. It moves past what you can get. It asks what you can contribute. The contrast is stark. Self-interest asks, how do I win? Social virtue asks, how can we succeed? The first leads to short-term gains and long-term isolation. The second builds trust. It strengthens networks. It creates a foundation where everyone, including you, is more likely to flourish. Take a modern team project. The self-interested approach might mean hoarding information, or undermining a colleague to look better, or focusing only on the parts that get you visible credit. You might get ahead in the moment, but you've weakened the team's cohesion. You've made the overall outcome less likely to be excellent, and you've taught everyone you're not a reliable partner. The Stoic approach flips that. It says your role is to ensure the project's success, full stop. That might mean sharing a key contact even if someone else gets the glory. It might mean doing the unglamorous background research that makes the whole presentation solid. It might mean publicly praising a teammate's idea. Your personal credit becomes secondary to the group's achievement, and paradoxically, that's how you build a lasting reputation. People remember who helped the ship reach shore, not who polished their own corner of the deck. So bring it home. In your main community, your workplace, your family, your neighborhood, what's one action you could take this week that serves the common good? Not a grand deed, a simple, intentional contribution. It could be mentoring a new colleague without being asked. It could be organizing a shared meal to ease a neighbor's burden. It could be picking up litter on your regular walk, not for praise, but because a clean street benefits everyone. The action itself is small. The shift in mindset is everything. You move from being a passenger in the hive to being an active, nourishing part of it. And in that shift, you find a deeper kind of satisfaction, one that isn't fragile. One that doesn't depend on outdoing anyone else. The ground is moving. Continents drift at the speed your fingernails grow. The universe isn't a photograph. It's a verb, a process. Change isn't an interruption of a stable world. It's the constant, the only constant. To see that is to stop fighting a law of nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. He's pointing to the two layers, the outer world always in motion, and the inner world, your opinion about it. Peace isn't found by stopping the river. It's found by learning to float, by aligning your opinion with the fact of the flow. That's the stability. The anchor isn't a fixed point in the world. It's your understanding that the world is fluid, that your ability to adapt is your real strength. We resist change because we mistake it for loss. A career shift feels like a death, an old identity. A child leaving home feels like the end of a role. A relationship changing feels like a threat. We cling to the snapshot, the version of life we labeled mine, but that snapshot was already fading the moment it was taken. The Stoic move is to shift your relationship with the process, to see endings as necessary for beginnings, to see decay as fertilizer. It's the philosophy of the seasons. Winter isn't the enemy of spring. It's the condition that makes spring possible. The tree doesn't resist losing its leaves. It lets them go. It conserves energy for the next cycle. Your life has seasons too. Take a major transition, a move to a new city, a shift into different work. The automatic reaction is fear, fear of the unknown, of losing the familiar. The mind spins stories of what could go wrong. The Stoic approach starts with an acknowledgement. This is change. It is natural. It is the law. Then it asks a question of curiosity, not fear. What can this new phase teach me? What dormant part might this upheaval awaken? Instead of white-knuckling the past, you open your palms to the present. You research the new city not with dread, but as an explorer. You approach the career shift not as a demotion, but as a curriculum. You are not being taken from your life. You are being given a new chapter. The change itself is neutral. Your stance, clenched or curious, determines whether it's an ordeal or an adventure. So a quiet question. What change are you resisting now? The aging of your body, the evolution of a friendship, a shift in your finances. How might you begin to accept it? Not as a personal failure or bad luck, but as part of the flow. Can you see it as the river turning a bend, revealing a new landscape? The stability you seek won't be found in stopping the turn. It's found in trusting your ability to navigate the new waters. The words we don't say can matter more than the ones we do. The Stoics, in a time that valued speech, they valued silence. They saw it as a space for understanding, a kind of discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He said, "Be silent most of the time, or say only what's necessary, and say it in a few words." This wasn't shyness, it was about intention, making sure your words served a purpose, that they improved the silence, or you just didn't speak. Think about your own daily talk. The filler in a meeting, the quick complaint to a coworker, the reactive comment online. How much of it really needed to be said? How much was just noise? Just venting your own tension or filling an awkward space. The Stoic practice is to audit your speech, to see gossip and complaint not as harmless but as a drain. Gossip pulls you into judging others, which we know creates inner turmoil. Complaint reinforces a story of victimhood, things happening to you. Both of these scatter your energy. They pull you away from your center. Silence conserves that energy. It gives you time to process, to understand before you react. It's the space where reason can catch up to emotion. Take a modern meeting. People often speak just to be seen speaking. The Stoic approach is to listen, to comprehend the full picture, to speak only when you have a question that clarifies for everyone, or a point that synthesizes things and moves the discussion forward. Your words become tools for the group's understanding, not for your own visibility. On social media, the discipline is even more powerful. The platform is built for instant reaction. A post angers you and your fingers fly to type a reply. That's the exact moment to practice Stoic silence. to close the app, to walk away, to ask, will my comment improve this silence? Will it lead to understanding or just more division? If you choose to engage later, it's from a place of choice, not reactive heat. So a practical commitment for your next conversation. With a partner, a friend, a colleague, commit to listening with the sole purpose of understanding their perspective. Don't compose your reply while they're still talking. Listen to the words and the tone and what's left unsaid. Your only job is to receive. When they finish, pause, let the silence sit for a breath, then respond. You'll find the quality of the exchange changes. It moves from a debate of monologues to a genuine dialogue. Recall a recent conversation that felt unsatisfying, or that turned into an argument. Play it back. Would it have been improved by you speaking less and listening more? The answer is often a quiet yes. In that space of withheld speech, you might have heard what they were actually trying to say. And you might have found a response that built a bridge instead of a wall. The search for a better moment steals your life quietly. You think contentment is waiting in the future, after the next thing, or maybe it's back in a past you've already left. But the Stoics, they saw the present as the only place where you can actually practice virtue, so the only place where you can ever find real fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius thought about this. He wrote that everything is interwoven and the web is holy. None of its parts are unworthy. He was looking at the world, at his own life, seeing a kind of perfection in the arrangement. Not perfection of ease, but of purpose. This moment, with all its flaws, its ordinary details, this is the complete arena. It has exactly the right conditions for you to exercise patience or courage, justice, wisdom. Right now, that's the danger of what we call the arrival fallacy, the belief that happiness is at the destination. That when you finally get the promotion, buy the house, reach the goal, then you'll be complete. But destinations, once you reach them, they just become new present moments. If you haven't learned to find the arena in the now, you just start searching for the next horizon, and you miss your life as it passes by. So the practice is to find what's hidden. The beauty or the interest inside a routine task, not to romanticize drudgery, but to engage with it fully. See washing dishes not as a barrier between you and relaxation, but as the activity itself. Feel the warmth of the water, notice the clarity of a clean glass, appreciate the simple order being restored. In that full attention, the mundane task becomes a meditation. It becomes a place where you practice presence, and that's the foundation for everything else. So the question is direct. Can you identify one way, right now, in which your current circumstances, exactly as they are perfectly suited for your growth? Maybe a limitation is teaching you resourcefulness. A quiet period is offering space for reflection, the kind you've been craving. A difficult person is training you in boundaries or in compassion. The present isn't lacking what you need. It's presenting you with the precise curriculum for your next step in strength. Your job isn't to wait for a better classroom. It's to engage with the lesson that's already in session. Your name gets spoken for a while and then it fades. The monuments, the wealth, they're like sandcastles. The tide comes in, so what's left? Marcus Aurelius faced that. He wrote about Alexander the Great and his mule driver. They both came to the same end. Both were received back into the same generative principle of the universe, or Hadrian's bones reduced to ashes. What separates the emperor from the servant in the end? Not titles, not conquests, just dust, and from that dust he finds a kind of liberation. If fame and oblivion meet the same fate, then the only thing that ever mattered was the quality of your character while you were alive. A legacy of virtue is built from different material. It isn't stored in a bank. It isn't carved in stone. It's woven into the lives you touched, the examples you set, the integrity you showed when no one was watching. Justice, courage, wisdom, temperance, these aren't accomplishments you list. They're the echoes of your choices. They ripple out in ways you might never see. A kind word to a stranger that changes their day. a fair decision that protects someone vulnerable, a moment of patience that diffuses a conflict. These acts don't make headlines, but they build a different kind of monument, one that exists in the moral fabric of the world long after your name is forgotten. That perspective turns a daunting thought into something practical. It asks you to make your next decision not for how it will look, but for how it will be. Imagine you're leading a team project. The easy choice, the image-conscious one, might be to take credit for a junior colleague's breakthrough idea. It boosts your standing short-term. The choice based on integrity is to shine the light on them, to give credit where it's due. That choice might not get you a promotion today, but it builds a legacy of fairness. It teaches your team about trust. It becomes part of your character's story, a story you and they will remember. So the quiet question isn't what they'll say about you at a funeral. It's more intimate than that. If you were remembered for one character trait, just one, what would you want it to be? Unshakable integrity, profound kindness, relentless courage. Now look at your actions from this past week, not your achievements but your small choices. The way you spoke to a service worker, the truth you told when a lie was easier, the patience you mustered when you were tired. Are those actions building the legacy you want? The answer isn't meant to judge your past, it's to illuminate your path forward. Every ordinary day is the workshop. That's where your enduring legacy is quietly, steadily being forged. The quotes are a map. The actual territory is your life. We went through 30 insights from Marcus Aurelius. They fit into these living principles of Stoicism. The power of your perception, the sovereignty of your inner citadel, embracing fate, the clarifying lens of mortality, your role in the human community. But knowing the map isn't the same as walking the path. The change happens when a concept becomes a reflex, when patience is your automatic breath before you speak. When courage is the quiet decision to act despite fear. That's the move from knowledge to wisdom. It's integration, and it asks for practice, not perfection. The goal isn't to become a sage who never feels anxiety. It's to become someone who recognizes the ripple and knows how to return to calm, someone who sees the obstacle and remembers it is the way. That's built through small, daily repetitions, not grand overhauls. You could start tomorrow with the morning meditation, 5 minutes of silence before you check a screen. To set your intention, to remind yourself what's truly in your control, or the evening review, a few minutes of honest accounting without judgment, to see where you strayed from your principles and where you held firm. That turns philosophy from a theory into a teacher. So as we near the end, here's the most important question. Of all the ideas, which one resonated most deeply? Was it the view from above, shrinking your worries? Was it the discipline of desire, stripping the shell from the things you chase? Was it Amor Fati, loving your fate, seeing the obstacle as the training ground? Identify that one, now make it practical. How will you bring it into your life this week? If it was the view from above, your practice might be to pause once each day. Look out a window, mentally zoom out on a current concern. If it was the inner citadel, your practice could be to bite back one reactive comment, choosing silence over the need to be right. If it was Memento Mori, your practice could be to do one thing today as if it were the last time, fully, completely, with your whole attention. Choose one. And begin. The philosophy of Marcus Aurelius doesn't live in ancient Rome. It lives in your next choice. These 30 passages aren't just a collection of quotes. They're a full operating system for the mind, a manual for building resilience from within, and the core message across 2,000 years is profoundly simple. We don't change the world by rearranging the furniture outside. We change our experience of the world by mastering the lens we see it through and the character we act with. It's a shift from seeking control over events to exercising sovereignty over your response. Marcus Aurelius has one final quote that brings it together. He wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Consider that image. Your mind isn't a blank slate. It isn't just passively receiving the day. It's an active participant, absorbing the hue of every judgment, every story you tell yourself. Dwell on anxiety, and your inner world takes on a gray, agitated tint. Dwell on gratitude or acceptance or virtue, and a different color emerges, a steadier one. You are, in a real way, the artist of your own atmosphere. That's the Stoic spirit of inner freedom. It's not freedom from hardship, it's freedom within it, the freedom to choose the color of your thoughts, and thereby the quality of your life. If this has resonated, the deepest source is waiting. Pick up the Meditations itself, read it slowly, not as a historical text but as personal notes. From a man grappling with the same fundamental struggles, power, true and lasting power, reveals itself not in command over others, but in the disciplined, virtuous, fully present response to life's unfolding moment. So here's an invitation. Which of these ideas, which quote, changed something in how you see your world? Share your perspective in the comments. Let's continue the conversation. And if you're ready for more guides to navigating life with clarity and strength, subscribe for more journeys into practical philosophy. Thank you for listening.